Welcome to Business Class. I'm Steve Ekstrom from Learn Tourism, a nonprofit academy dedicated to advancing the tourism industry through innovative training and sustainable practices. Our mission? To empower travel professionals and communities with the knowledge they need to create meaningful, authentic, and sustainable tourism experiences. Ready to join us on this journey? Visit learntourism.org and start making a difference today.
Wow. Yeah, I woke up on the shores of Lake Erie. There is nothing between me and the water except a couple trees, and the sun is just starting to rise. You know, when you have that orange glow on the horizon, that's what I'm seeing out the window right now.
Amazing, amazing. So how do you like traveling around for 3 years?
I didn't expect it. I thought I was going to travel for 2 or 3 months and then go live abroad or on an island. But I realized around the same time I started traveling what my real passion is in life. And it's not the food, the architecture, the travel, it's the fact that I learn.
Yes.
Everything that seems interesting to me, I put a pin on a map.
Yeah.
And I'm in Sandusky today. Tomorrow, I'm going to go meet with the ecologist responsible for maintaining Lake Erie. And then I'm going to take my niece to meet the Amish in Indiana, learn how to make pretzels, take carriage through an animal park.
What's been your favorite so far?
There are different categories. There are places where I think I could live. I've really enjoyed visiting Colorado. I've had some great experiences in Pennsylvania, mountain area of North Carolina within the States. Montana's beautiful, but I can't do winter. Then you have the natural beauty of Utah.
You have here, it's a
Very
giant
similar.
national monument, Red Rock, St. George experience. We have both volcanic and sandstone in Alula, so it's a little different in that respect. But when I first came to Alula years ago, I thought, wow, this reminds me of Utah. It's so similar. Monument
You-
Valley, all of that.
Yeah, you can't compare waking up in Arches National Park to being in Savannah, but you can enjoy both. I've also
Very good.
traveled through Mexico, across Canada, and the Atlantic provinces. I have my 13-year-old niece who spends 6 weeks with me every summer. We start weeks. It's been amazing to see her grow through traveling and to see her own learning.
Welcome back to Learn Tourism's Business Class podcast, where we explore the people and ideas shaping the future of tourism. Today's guest is someone whose career has been defined by bold decisions, visionary leadership, and a steadfast commitment to building tourism as a force for good. Philip Jones is the Chief Tourism Officer for the Royal Commission for Alula, where for the past 6 years he has led unprecedented development of one of the world's most culturally rich and ecologically significant destinations. Before taking on the challenge of building Alula's tourism infrastructure from the ground up, Philip served as CEO of Visit Dallas, where his leadership brought in record-breaking meetings and economic impact. He also served nearly 8 years as Louisiana's Secretary of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. His work has transformed how destinations are marketed, how teams are led, and how tourism can become a cornerstone of both heritage preservation and socioeconomic development. In this conversation, Philip shares lessons from decades in leadership, the humbling experience of mentoring young professionals, and what it means to help an ancient destination find new life in the modern world. Let's dive in.
I like to say travel is the best teacher. If you meet someone here in Saudi, the perception people have was that very unfriendly, militaristic, and the opposite is true. It's a very open, warm, welcoming sort of environment, very open-minded and willing to showcase and share their hospitality with you. It's hard to hate people if you get to know them. And that's one of the best things about travel, I think.
It is. And there are a few lessons from traveling, as much as people like you and I have. And one of them is that people are generally kind and they're generally welcoming and they generally want to care and share. You
Right.
just have to give them an opportunity. And in my own visit to Saudi last year, there is such an incredible pride
Yeah.
for what the country has culturally and geographically. People are sincerely excited to share it with others.
100%.
What was it like when you got that first call saying,
So-
hey, at this project in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I got a call and they said, hey, we have this awesome opportunity for you in Alula. And I said, wow, where in Hawaii is that? Which island is it? And they said, it's in Saudi Arabia. I said, no, thanks. I'm really not interested in working in Saudi. I've never been. And It's certainly not on my list of places to visit. And they said, just come take a look. They flew me over and I got here and I was like, okay, wow, this place is amazing. There's nothing like it in the world. They want to create a tourism industry and we have to build an ecosystem from the ground up and go do it. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. And so I've been here, it'll be 6 years next month. It's been quite a journey.
So not many folks have the opportunity to build an entire tourism infrastructure from scratch. What part of that has been most fun for you?
The realization that you have 7,000 years of history and civilizations, each their mark. Many are attracted to it because it's an oasis in the desert. Millions of date palm trees, a stopping point, particularly for pilgrims traveling to Mecca. During the incense route, it was also a stopping point. These civilizations have left their mark, and now we've created heritage sites that showcase and tell the story. So telling the story, no one knows the story of the Nabateans or the Dadanites. They preceded the Egyptians in many respects. Everyone knows about Egypt, but no one knows about the Nabateans. Our job is to go out and tell that story and showcase the fact that in Lula, in Hegra, we have 111 monuments that are in pristine condition. They've been in the desert for the last 2,000 plus years. Since Saudi was closed for roughly the last 5-6 years, it was intact because people didn't visit, didn't have access to it. And telling that story to a global audience, telling the story of the impact, we like to call them the architects of ancient Arabia. The other part that's been fun is taking these young Saudi men and women who never imagined being someone who would work in the hospitality sector because it didn't exist other than religious tourism, bringing these young Saudi men and women on this journey with us and seeing them embrace the opportunity and make a commitment to an industry that is going to continue to grow in importance in the future has been a lot of fun. There's some amazing young Saudis who work on our team now. About 40 to 50% of our employees are young women. The young women are leading the charge. Their mothers and grandmothers didn't have this opportunity. So they're going to take full advantage of it and capitalize on it. I've really enjoyed seeing the enthusiasm and pride these kids have in their country and in the tourism industry.
One of the things that I noticed was that the young Saudis we got to work alongside are some of the most remarkably well-educated people I've ever had the experience to work with. The scope of the project extends beyond the infrastructure. It extends beyond the people management, but there's also socioeconomic indicators, studies, and research going along with it to preserve culture. How do you see this project preserving and advancing culture in that particular region?
I think it's twofold. One is that there's so much history and heritage here. As we go about our projects and develop the destination and build the ecosystem, we're doing it very sustainably. We're doing it very carefully. I like to say we've been around for 7,000 years. We need to keep it around for another 7,000 years. What we're trying to do is make sure we stay authentic to the destination. If you compare Hegra to Petra, I love Petra, it's lovely. But when you go to Petra, you're there with 1,000 people and some donkeys and some camels and some Chinese trinkets. And then when you come to Hegra, you're there with 30 people and have this unique experience. You're sitting in an environment with 100 tombs in one location and walking where history has been made. The other day, one of our archaeologists found a coin from Cleopatra. It was just in the desert and they picked up and there it was. We make sure we retain the integrity of the sites and the heritage and the history. Simultaneously, we're also putting in place efforts in the culture realm, focusing on art in the landscape. So we have a project with James Turrell, Michael Heiser, and Agnes Dennis, where we're building these massive art installations in the Valley of the Arts or Wadi Al Fan, which will position Lula uniquely in the world as a place dedicating to public art. We're building a museum of the Incense Road, put together a world-class museum with amazing artifacts. We'll be building a contemporary art museum because we have a big collection of contemporary art. So we're positioning Alula as a cultural destination. We're never going to be Dubai. We're not Riyadh, Jeddah. We're never going to be a big city. We're never going to get millions of visitors. We're going to focus on who we are and attracting an audience that doesn't mind spending a little more money, getting in a plane to fly here, and experiencing the culture, heritage, and the adventure. We're also putting in place a state-of-the-art observatory because we're the first DARC certified destination in the Middle East. So astrotourism is another area we're putting a lot of emphasis on.
What's been most challenging?
I think two things: the perception of Saudi globally. Now it's gotten a lot better since I've been here, but I'll tell you a story. When I first arrived, I had good relations with the New York Times in my prior role, right? So I reached out to the New York Times travel editor and they said, no, thank you. We're not interested. They wouldn't even let me in the door to talk to them. The second year, they're like, okay, we'll talk to you, but we're never doing a story on Saudi Arabia or Alula. Third year, they're like, we've been reading a lot about what's happening and we've been seeing a lot of what you guys are doing. And then year four, they're like, we're going to do a story. And now in year five, we've had 2 New York Times stories in the last year. And so what that shows is the perception has changed and that we've made progress in that regard. Still, Alula is probably in some ways better known because of our branding and marketing than even KSA. And so we have good global recognition, but changing that perception has been one of the biggest challenges. And we're seeing huge shift in positive sentiment, positive attitude, intent to visit. The other challenge has been we're in a remote location, 8 hours away from Riyadh or Jeddah. The supply chain issue to build the infrastructure and to hire the number of employees we need has been a bit of a challenge. And COVID hit in the middle of that, and that just slowed everything down. But what we did during COVID is we said it was planned. So when things open back up, we're ready to go. And it really has worked out fairly well for us with our master planning. One of the big aha moments we had was that we recognize 60 to 70% of Alula will be a national park. We're putting a lot of emphasis on rewilding and introducing animals back into the ecosystem because we're also working on a project to breed Arabian leopards. There are only 120 left in the world, and we have a breeding facility, and we have another one we're building in Alula, and we've bred 28 in captivity, and by 2030, we'll be releasing these animals. One of the agreements we signed was with the National Zoo in Washington to loan 2 leopards to the Smithsonian National Zoo by 2029. It's different every day that people who inspire me or who do things like what you've done, get in an RV and travel the country. That's inspiring to me. But people who inspire me are visionary leaders willing to put the hard work in necessary to deliver and who don't care who gets credit as long as the job gets done. Those are the people that inspire me. There are a couple people that I love as role models. One is I used to do Ironman triathlons, and there's a nun, Sister Madonna Buder, and she's 90 years old, and she's done close to 70 Ironman races around the world. So if a 90-year-old nun can do an Ironman, then I think I can pretty much do anything as well, right? If you put your mind to it, anything is possible. And so she's someone who really inspires me. And there are many leaders in the tourism sector that I find to be inspiring. But at the end of the day, it's the young men and women who are making the changes happen in our country and in our industry that inspire me. And hopefully a little work that you and I do rub off on some of these young men and women working in our industry, helping them realize that this is an important industry. I remember when I first came into the industry, I worked for President Clinton, and we did the White House Conference on Tourism. One of our big challenges was that the codes used to determine the economic impact of a particular industry with magicians. Tourism was an afterthought. Now we're one of the main industries globally, and people recognize it as important. That's something I've been very proud of. I guess the final person who inspires me was Bill Clinton. I thought he was an amazing president, and working in his administration was a great honor.
If you had advice for a young person getting started in or about to leave college, they don't quite know what they want to do next, but they know that hospitality is interesting, what advice would you give them?
Give it a try. Try our industry out. It's one of the best industries in the world because it takes young people who are willing to work hard and give them opportunities they wouldn't probably find in many other industries. You and I started as a busboy 40 years ago, and now I have run many large tourism organizations.
Start with one of the things. We've got a
Okay.
sound, or it's pretty good.
So one of the things that I think is important is that if you look at our industry, people who started at the very bottom, like the gentleman who started Four Seasons, he started at the front desk and worked their way up. If you're willing to work hard, learn from your seniors, learn from your leaders, then opportunities will fall into place. It's one of the most mobile industries where you can start at the bottom and work your way to the top. I think that's what I like about the tourism industry. If I were a young person getting in college, I would tell them, don't be afraid to take chances. Look at me. I was set in my job in America for 15, 16 years. Prior to that, I was the Minister of Tourism for the state of Louisiana. I was very well versed in the tourism industry. And when they called me about an opportunity in Saudi Arabia, I took it because it was a risk, but no risk, no reward. Sometimes you make choices and they don't work out, but if you're willing to take a chance, oftentimes they do. And here I am 6 years later. Look what's happening.
What has been the most rewarding factor of actually living in Saudi Arabia?
A couple things. One is getting to know the people. They're lovely, they're warm, they're generous, they're very hospitable. And the other is learning about this part of the world. There's so much unknown in Saudi, but not just Saudi, but in the Middle East in general. Most Americans couldn't tell you where the UAE is versus where Oman is versus where Qatar is versus where Saudi Arabia is. Being here and being able to travel around this region and meet some of the most inspiring people and understanding the history and the heritage of this area, which for many years has been overlooked, is becoming more popular because people see there's a huge amount of history, heritage, arts, culture, and adventure experiences available in the region. It's now becoming very competitive as a tourism destination. Think of Dubai, it's well known, but there's so many other amazing destinations within the region that makes it much more appealing and enjoyable to travel around and see the various areas of the Middle East. Yeah.
What is a skill you're looking to learn this year?
How to better use AI, because I think it's the future. I just heard Elon Musk speak at the Saudi U.S. Investment Forum in Riyadh, and he said everyone's basically going to have a personal robot in the next few years. What that taught me was you better figure this out so that as things change rapidly with AI, it can be a force for good or bad. So let's harness it and use it as a force for good and have it help in the tourism sector in our daily lives.
How would you like the people on your team to describe you?
I think as a servant leader, someone that is willing to work hard along with the team, but also willing to share my knowledge and train my young Saudi men and women and the other members on my team. I hope they think of me as someone who is willing to take the time to help them share my knowledge and transfer this knowledge so that they will be successful in the future and serve as a mentor for them. I'm at the tail end of my career now, right? So I want to behind a legacy of really bright young men and women who are willing to work hard, get things done. And at the end of the day, don't worry about who gets credit. Just make sure the job gets done, because if you do your job, you'll get the credit you deserve.
What is something about you that would surprise?
They would probably be surprised that I like EDM music. I bet no one would think that. I like Calvin Harris and that kind of folks. I also like opera, but because of all the working out I do in the gym and spinning, I got used to that type of music. So I find myself listening to it all the time. I think no one in the world would ever think I would be an EDM fan, but there you go. That's something no one knows about me. Other than my daughter. My son, they're like, Dad, you're way too old for this.
Is there anything I didn't ask that you wish I did?
I think you ask great questions. I want to encourage anyone who's listening or watching that this is an important industry. You get out of it what you put into it. It's one of those rare industries where you can start at the bottom and work your way to the top. I hope that many of the people listening and watching can have a very successful journey.
I'll share a little anecdote. I've chatted with over 200 CEOs. Only 2 of them knew they wanted to work in tourism and destination work when they got started in the industry. Everybody else was a busboy, a waiter, a front desk clerk.
Yeah, that's funny. What's great about our industry?
Is there anything else you'd like to ask?
So you're in Ohio, Pennsylvania. Where are you going? Michigan next? What's on your?
I'm working my way to the Destinations International Conference.
In Chicago?
For the 5 weeks leading up to that, I'll have the road trip with my niece. So we'll plan up to Michigan. We'll see the Great Lakes and
cool. I'm going to try and go to Chicago for Destinations International. Maybe I'll see you there.
If folks want to learn more about visiting Alula,
go to alula.com, and it's our website, and it has everything you want to see and learn about on that website. It has some amazing itineraries and footage that we'll be happy to share with anyone that's interested.
I look forward to visiting soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was fantastic. It was easy.
You're easy too. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
My
Have
pleasure.
a fantastic afternoon.
You too, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Business Class. This episode was brought to you by Learn Tourism. the nonprofit academy where we advance the tourism industry with cutting-edge training and sustainable practices. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to visit learntourism.org to learn more about our programs and how you can get involved. Until next time, stay curious, continue learning and making a difference through tourism.